Well, hello there. How are you doing? I am doing fantastic. You are listening to the No Limits Map to Triathlon podcast, episode number 56. Today, I was going to talk to you about not quitting. And then I realized, you know what? I did a podcast like 3 episodes ago about this. I think I must have something in my mind saying, guys, don't quit. Keep going. Don't quit. So a good thing I looked back and said, this sounds very familiar. You got to switch up. Let's get a new topic. So today the topic is going to be about yes, you can. I give you permission. Yes, you can. So stay tuned. It's going to be a good one. Hi, I'm Todd and I've been in the sport of triathlon for over 25 years. I'm head coach of a triathlon group you've probably never heard of. We don't train all the time, and we don't have goals to win races. In fact, our motivation is the exact opposite. We train for triathlons in addition to living busy lives with the goal of staying in shape and challenging ourselves in this amazing sport of triathlon. We are triathletes with no limits, and this is your map to triathlon. All right, so we're going to talk to you today about yes, you can. Okay, now, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I had in my mind I was going to talk to you about not quitting. Now, I kind of think that this is sort of relevant because if I wanted to quit, like in the beginning I had this podcast, I was writing down some notes, half a page of notes, and I realized this sounds very, very familiar to something I've already done. And sure enough, yep, I think it was 3 podcast episodes ago, that's what I talked about. So instead of me saying, screw it, I'm not going to do a podcast today, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to come up with something else. So today we're going to talk about yes, you can. Yes, you can. All right. I want to take you back in time to maybe about a year ago. I was having coffee with a brand new prospect for an athlete. We're sitting down, we're having coffee, and we're chatting about, dreams and races and stuff. And she says, Todd, I want to do a 70.3. I've always wanted to do a half Ironman, and I would like to do one. I'm like, okay, what's holding you back? She's like, you know what? I'm a pretty good runner. I can bike. But what's holding me back is this open water swimming. I don't like it. For whatever reason, I'm not confident when I get in the water. I don't feel good, and I just maybe have a bit of a fear of it. And I'm like, no problem. We can overcome that. She's like, really? I said, yeah, no problem. I said, where do you live? She said, oh, I live on the lake. So easy access to the lake, just have to hop in and swim. I said, oh, super easy. Look, if you live over there, and I knew exactly where she was living, I'm like, we can make you a swimmer. No problem. And my confidence sometimes with other people is really high. Now, I just say it. Yeah, that's going to happen. We can make you to do a 7.3 and become an open water swimmer. No problem. And how this comes to become how someone becomes a good open water swimming is probably an answer you're going to come up with yourself, and that's practice. So the more you do, the better you get. Now, if you look at me, like I know this, I'm doing this on a YouTube video and on a podcast. If you look at my hair, I've still got swim hair happening. This morning, I swam in the lake with Pablo. We hopped in. He lives on the lake too, so we hopped into his lake and we swam around, and we swam for a good 35 minutes. And I was giving him tips and things, and it was great. It was really, really great. And that is the best way to become a good swimmer, is to say, or a good open water swimmer, or a good swimmer, regardless, is to swim. So you need to practice swimming. And I always ask people, look, if you want to become a good swimmer, this is what you have to do. Here are workouts that you have to do. And if you can promise me that you can swim 2 or 3 times a week, and you do what I tell you to do, then you're going to make this happen. It's like making cookies, all right? So you have this recipe, you follow the recipe, you have flour, you have sugar, all the other good things like milk chocolate. You got to have milk chocolate chips and cookies and oatmeal. Those are my favorite. And whatever else goes in there. I'm not a cookie making guy, but I'm a very good cookie eating guy. Seriously. The way to my heart is through my stomach. Yeah. So I said, if you follow these workouts, you practice this in the pool, when it becomes warm enough, we will go to the lake and we will get you around that lake and you will become a good swimmer. And she's like, okay, I can do that. And she stuck to the plan. And then I had an email from her saying, you know what, Todd, thank you very much. Let me see if I can just pull it up. Hang on a sec. Okay, so here is the email that was sent to me. And this is for me, it just kind of, warms my soul, I think, when I read stuff like this. The email is, hey, looking back on my pre-No Limits days, I'm stunned. The race today, this is after doing a race. The race today was pure fun, felt great all the way through, almost to the point where I think I could push harder and manage T2 much better. But I digress. Not only did I feel stronger and more confident, but the friendship and connection to the group made today the best race ever. Now this is the part where I'm talking about that's pretty cool. You said you'd teach me to swim, and it was my best event today. You said that this might become a lifestyle, not a bucket list, and I think you're right. And you said Ohana was something special, and it is. So when I was sitting down with Brenda a year ago, I said I was all about Ohana. Last year, 2019 Ironman's motto, their slogan for the year was Ohana, and I have a mug right here. You guys can see it on the YouTube, and it's basically just Ironman with flower. I think it's Hawaiian hibiscus, and Ohana. Ohana basically is a Hawaiian word that means your family and extended family. So you have this group of people that support you, and that's your Ohana. And I said, you know what? When you become part of a group, you become part of this Ohana, and they support you through everything. And this year, 2020, through COVID, our Ohana was amazing, and it was so good to see how people support each other. But what I think is really cool is that when you want to do something, a lot of people have this fear of, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this because of this, or I can't do this because of that. And so inside you, you know, or you think you can't do it. But when you sit down, for example, like for coffee with someone else, and you say, hey, this is what I want to do. And they look at you and say, okay, we can do that. And you're like, oh, hang on a sec, hold on a sec. Look, there's all these things that I can't do. You don't understand. I can't do this because of this and because of that. And that person says, it doesn't matter. That stuff doesn't matter. I can get you to the goal that you want. Now, how cool is that? And that is the benefit of having a coach or an expert or someone or guide to show you show you the route to get to the finish line. And I'm sure all of us have been in that situation at some point where we want to do something, or feel like we can't, and then someone says, hey, look, all you have to do is this. Because I've done it. This is what you do, and you do this, and you can do it. And you're like, okay, I'll follow that. And then you do it, and you realize, oh my gosh, I can do that. And that's a really, really cool feeling, isn't it? Okay, so that's the first one. That's the first little story about Yes You Can. Now, I want to talk to you about another story about Yes You Can. I was having another open water swim session with another lady, and we're hopping into the water, and we're just talking about stuff. We're talking about racing and training and swimming, and it was a beautiful day, and sometimes we're slow to get into the water, sometimes I'm slow to put on the wetsuit, and it's a great way for me to chat with athletes. I like it a lot. I find that not only am I teaching people about swimming and things, but I'm teaching them about how you can think about things, and that happens before we get in the water, out of the water, and sometimes when we're floating around the water. I mean, it's great moments for me to coach and talk to people about things like that. You might hear some clicking noises on the microphone. My dog's upstairs walking around. We need to get the toenails trimmed a little bit. So we're about to walk into the water. And the question is asked to me. She said, Todd, how can I become more competitive? What can I do to become more competitive? And so I stop and I think about that. And for me, I am a pretty competitive person, although I don't think it comes out. But it might come out like if you're riding with me and you go a little bit faster, then I go a little bit faster, or running, the same thing happens. And I remember an athlete years ago saying, Todd, you're like the most competitive person I know, which kind of took me off guard because I don't even consider myself that competitive, but I guess I kind of am in certain situations, and that's kind of neat. And I just thought to myself, as she asked me that question, I'm like, why do you want to be competitive? Like, what is it in you? Like, what do you want? And I always get back to this big question of, well, why? Like, why are you doing it? And I said, why are we even doing this open water swim session today? Like, what do you hope to get out of this? And she's like, well, I want to become a better swimmer. So technique, endurance. And then I said, so in your races coming up, do you want to win? Like, do you want a podium? Do you want to qualify for stuff? She goes, oh, no. I don't want to do that. And I go, why are you racing? And it comes back down to that big question, why? I go, why are you doing this? And she goes, you know what? I like to train for triathlons because I like to be fit. I like to be healthy. I like to learn. I like to become more efficient at the task, swimming, biking, and running. And she goes, that's it. That's why I like training for triathlons. And I'm like, so you don't want to win? She said, nope, I don't want to win. You don't want to podium or qualify? Nope, that's not me. So you're telling me that you want to do all this stuff. So you want to use races as a way to train rather than training as a way to race. She says, yes, that's me. So again, that's you're racing to train, not training to race. A lot of people are opposite. And I think if you can figure out who you are, it really helps with your mindset and why you're doing this stuff. It comes back to why. And then I said to her, I said, you know what? It's okay. You don't have to be competitive. You can just stay the same route of focusing on being healthy, getting in good shape, and learning how to be the best athlete you can be without trying to qualify and win the event. She's like, really? I can do that? I'm like, yes, you can. And she's like, wow. I was just waiting for someone to give me permission to do that. And I just thought, well, there you go. Today is your lucky day because I'm giving you permission not to be competitive. Let's go have a swim. And we had a great swim. We were in the water and we went over some open water swim skills about, what do you do with your arms and how do you sight and how to stay relaxed. I'm like, watch me swim for 15 strokes. I'll swim out 15, come back 15, and watch how I swim. She's like, oh my gosh, you're doing this, you're doing that. Yeah, and I want you to try that. Once you try that, she's like, oh, much better. Okay, so those are two examples of stories of Yes You Can. I want to tell you one story from me about Yes You Can. When I was training a couple years ago, I remember I was doing an LSD run, so long, steady distance run. And I was thinking about what I do when I'm training for Ironmans. I always want to have a certain pace that I'm shooting for. So for me, when I'm running, I like to be running at 5-minute kilometers or a little bit faster for my LSD pace. And this day I was running, and it just didn't feel good. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But I'm looking at the pace, and the pace is hovering right around 5s. I go, I'm where I should be, but oh my gosh, this feels horrible. And then a little voice pops into my head. It's like, Todd, just slow down. Just slow down. I'm like, I don't know. So I kept fighting that voice. And the voice comes back in and says, Todd, just slow down. I'm like, okay. So yes, you can. Todd, slow down. And I do this in races too, that whenever you feel like it doesn't feel quite right, sometimes you're swimming, it doesn't feel quite right, biking, this feels too hard, or running feels too hard. Slow down. Try this little tip, is just slow down. Even if you just imagine you got a volume knob and you just turn it to the left a little bit. You're just turning down the pace just a tiny little bit. You're giving yourself a little bit more room to breathe, and it feels way easier. Like, oh my gosh, thank you for turning down the speed there, Todd. That feels much better. And then you know what happens? Typically for me is the workout feels a ton better, and I usually get my speed back too. So there's something that goes on inside us that goes, okay, I need a little break. Turn that knob down a little bit, and then it comes back up. And you can play that game of going up and down just by staying relaxed. And one thing that works really well for me is breathing. So I just focus on really good exhalations and inhalations, and I go, after a while, it feels good. I also focus on trying to stay relaxed. So this is for running. I, kind of loosen up the shoulders, shake out the hands, kind of wiggle the hands, shake out the arms, and you can punch the air if you want, punch that. And then that helps you stay relaxed. This podcast was all about yes, you can. And oftentimes, look, we come up with our own roadblocks, our own obstacles, thinking, I can't do this. I can't do that. But I'm telling you, most of these things are just obstacles that we throw up in our own way. And the thing is we oftentimes just need someone who's not us with different eyeballs to look at what we're doing and say, look, you can do this. Yes, you can. All you have to do is this. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah, because you're looking at this. You need to look over here. And so if you're in a position now where I want to go back to my original idea for this podcast was about don't quitting. If you find that you're in a position right now where you feel like, oh my gosh, I want to quit, don't quit, because I think sometimes we quit just before a breakthrough can happen. So sometimes if you feel like quitting, why don't you just slow down like I did? Slow down, take a breather, and then get back into it. And before you know it, you might find that breakthrough comes through. And yes, sometimes we do need to quit, and then we can come back. But yeah, today I want to leave you with the idea of yes, you can. And if you find that you can't, I want you to write this word down on a piece of paper. Get out a pen, piece of paper, and whatever problem you're on, like whatever problem you're having with swimming, biking, or running, or triathlon, or any problem in life, for example, you go, I don't know what to do. I want you to open up a blank sheet of paper, take out your pen, and at the top, just write down how. Big letters, HOW. Big question mark afterwards. And how can I make this happen? If this is something that you really want to do, and if you write down the word how, your mind can go into all the different possibilities and ways that you can figure out how to do it. Our mind is like amazing, and it's so fantastic of finding answers and helping you figure out what you want to do. So today I'm giving you permission. Yes, you can. And if you have any stumbling blocks, I want you to write out how and see if you can come up with some ideas on how you can overcome those blocks. Hey, just recently on my website, which is NoLimitsTriathlon.com, you can see that I added a brand new download, and it's 101 training tips for your first Ironman. This was a really cool idea that I started, I think it was like a month or two ago. I had it completed for a while, but I'm like, what do I do with this? What do I do with this thing? I got it all done. And I think for me, almost like maybe you guys do as well, as you have a bit of fear about putting things out there, or fear about doing this, fear about doing that. And I'm like, Todd, I give you permission. Yes, you can do it. Go ahead. How do I do it? This is how you do it. All right. Get it up there, and it's up there. Go to NoLimitsTriathlon.com. It's 101 training tips for your first triathlon. What I did is I asked all my athletes that have done an Ironman or 70.3, and I said, if you could give one tip to people that are, about to do their first 7.3 or Ironman, what would that tip be? Now, I didn't get 101 responses from my athletes because I didn't have that many people to email, and so I put it out to 2 Facebook groups, and within, I kid you not, probably like within 2 or 3 hours, I think I had like 300 or 400 responses. So what I did is I took the top 101 responses that really spoke to me, and I put them in this ebook. And if you have never done an Ironman, or even if you have and you're curious to see if your tip made the book, go to NoLimitsTriathlon.com, add your name and email, download the 101 PDF ebook. I think it looks pretty cool. Spent a bit of time in designing it. I am nowhere near a designer, but I like the idea of it. Check it out. I think you'd like it. If you have any more tips that you want to add, maybe I'll add a second edition of the book. Send me the tips, and then we'll go. Okay, guys, I want to thank you very much for joining me today on this episode of Yes You Can, and I look forward to chatting with you next week on the No Limits Map the Triathlon podcast. I'm Coach Todd. Thank you very much. Mahalo. See you later. Bye-bye. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hey, if you have any questions, please send me a note. You can contact me at Instagram at NoLimitsCoach and Facebook at NoLimitsTry. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a comment and a review on iTunes. I appreciate all reviews and questions. Happy training, and we'll talk soon.